what if I do everything right and it doesn't work out? What if I do everything I'm supposed to do and I still don't get the life that I deserve? Is a question that often scares me, because it's kind of like, what is the point of doing these things? Especially, what is the point of doing the right thing? Because what if I do it and I still don't get what I deserve from it? And it's a question I've been asking myself a lot lately, and I've had to kind of reframe the question, because I feel like that's a question that I'm currently just now thinking in my head and saying it out loud, but I feel like it's something that I subconsciously have been asking myself for a long time, and it's made me quit on a lot of things, like the expectation that I should get something specifically out of doing something or continuing something, and always feeling like I need a reward in a specific time period is what has made me quit on a lot of things, for the simple fact that, like many people, I'm very rewards based, especially visually. So when I don't get the things that I feel like I deserve, or I don't get the things that I feel like I should be seeing or I should be getting, I often quit on things. And then, years later down the line, or time periods down the line, I'm just like, oh, if only I would have stick with that thing, or oh, if I would have continued that thing, or oh, where my life would have, would look like, or would be now, like if I would have, not stopped. And it's just kind of disheartening sometimes, because it's like you feel not really like a failure, but you just feel like I can't get it right. I feel like I never can get it right. I feel like I never can do enough. It's never enough. And one question I've had to reframe around that thing, or something I've had to reframe around that thing, are doing things without expectations. And I feel like that's very hard, because we live in a world that's very expectation based, right? You have expectations upon anyone and everyone, from our parents to our boss to the world itself. And I realized that's one thing that I have to let go of, especially when it comes not from me, because I feel like many of us have more expectations upon other individuals than we have on ourselves. There's a certain amount of money that we expect to get paid, because you might have a college degree or even a high school diploma. There's a certain amount of weight you expect to lose if you've been going to the gym for a certain amount of time, or you feel like the gym is not working if you don't see results in a certain amount of time. But I feel like, including myself, I don't have enough expectations upon myself. Like, I feel like oftentimes we subconsciously play the victim role, and we blame outside things, because outside things are doing what outside things do. And so I've realized, first and foremost, I can't have expectations on anyone but myself, if we're really going to be honest, because I can't expect anything from anyone but myself. And then I also feel like, at the same time, like, I have to stop expecting things out of things. I need to just start doing things for the simple fact that I can. Right. And I feel like it's a certain level of gratitude, I think you would say, but just doing things for the simple fact that you have the ability to do them. And I feel like whether you believe in God, whether you believe in the universe, whether you just believe in karma, I feel like it makes you get things back tenfold. I.e., you get things back much greater, for the simple fact that you don't have any expectations upon that thing, and you're just doing that thing because you genuinely want to do that thing, right? And so some case scenarios where that's recently happened for me is around Christmas time, my grandfather is I don't want to say your traditional grandfather, but like, he was in the war. He doesn't really talk too much sometimes. He doesn't really say he ever likes anything, or he watched Cowboys movies all day in black and white. Like, that's just him. And around Christmas time, he mentioned something about a coat, this aviator jacket, and he was like, oh yeah, that's a nice jacket, but that jacket is real expensive, and da-da-da-da-da, and all this other stuff. But he wasn't really saying it in a sense of for anybody to get it for him. I think somebody might have had it on like a TV show or something like that, and he was just saying it was nice. And we all were inside the living room watching TV. And so once he left, he went out. I said to my family, like, we should get him that jacket. And they were like, well, where would you even find that jacket? And I'm like, the damn internet? Like, why are we acting like what? So anyways, long story short, I found the jacket and I told everyone the price, and I'm like, we could split the price for it. So we ended up doing that, splitting the price for him for the jacket, and he was so excited about the jacket. Like, I can honestly say I've never really like seen my grandfather that happy before. And it's not like, oh, he's a grumpy guy, but I don't know. Like I said, I feel like he's just a traditional grandpa. Like, he's just him, I guess you could say. And I've never seen that happy. He was so happy about the jacket, and then he found out like I was the one that curated it, and kind of was the one that pushed the initiative to get it and ordered it and all this other stuff. And he actually sent me double the money that I put in for my part for the jacket. And I didn't ask him for it. I didn't even, well, obviously I took the money, but I say that to say, and I know that's a small example, and I know it's easy because like someone may say, okay, well, that's your family. But I feel like that's just a prime example of like, when you do things, in my opinion, you expect greater things back. And I feel like if he would have told me he was giving me that money, contrary to him just giving me that money, it wouldn't have felt the same because I would have had some expectation on it. I probably even would have been like, if he would have gave it to me, you know, a couple of days after Christmas, okay, so when am I getting it? And he did give it to me a couple of days after Christmas. He gave it to me like the first week of June or the second week of June, but I didn't have any expectation upon it. And I did that thing without expectation. And even now with this whole gym journey that I'm going through, I started really working out January 2nd. We're now in February and I'm just now starting to see like small results, nothing that anyone else can see, but I can see it because I look in the mirror every single day and I'm grateful for it and I'm happy about it. And it's not something where it's like I put a time period on when I wanted to see results and I put a time period on how my body is supposed to look. I actually kind of changed my framework around even going to the gym and eating healthy, just saying like, I want this to be a lifestyle for me. Like, I don't care if it takes me 5, 6, 7 months to see results. I'm not gonna lie, if it do take too long, you know, you go back to the drawing board, you're like, all right, I should see a little bit of something. But at the same time, I lost the expectation upon how long it's gonna take my body to look. And I lost the expectation upon how, you know, small I want my waist or all these other things, how flat I want my stomach. And now I am starting to see results and I'm looking back at how long I've been working out. And don't get me wrong, it's only been, you know, a few weeks. But I definitely can say I don't see myself stopping. I don't see myself saying, okay, well, I'm just working out for this vacation or I'm just trying to get my body right for the summer. Like, I don't even have a framework of when my body is going to be right. I don't even have a framework or expectation upon when I'm going to get my dream body, because I feel like that's just a byproduct of me working out, of me eating healthy. Like, that's what I'm trying to instill in myself. So this is a regular thing for me. So my body's always going to look good and I'm always going to feel good because I practice the things that individuals who have those results already do, without the idea of I have to have something, I have to get something from it. And I feel like a lot of times that happens with a lot of people when it comes to businesses or when it comes to doing workouts or just a lot of things that can benefit you in life. We often stop doing those things because we don't see a benefit from them. But sometimes as well, we have to understand, like, not seeing the benefit is actually what's helping you. That's actually what's building up, you know, your reps. That's actually what's getting you consistent in doing something, because you have to understand, once you get to that goal or once you get to that place that you want to be, it's going to be harder. Like, I don't know why we subconsciously have this idea that it's going to be easier once we get there. And if anything, the easiest part of it is your building part. The easiest part is when you don't know what to do. And I recently watched Tyler Perry. If you're not familiar with who he is, he's an actor, movie director, all those things under the sun. He has a documentary, and I recently watched his documentary. And for 7 years, he had his play. And for 7 years, it was not making any money, really. For 7 years, it was not getting any publications. It was not getting shown. It just was really just a small play production that he put together. And finally, on the 7th year, someone asked, hey, can you show the play at so-and-so theater? At first, he didn't honestly want to do it because after 7 years, he was like, it's not working. People obviously don't want to see the play. It's obviously not a good play. And he first told, I don't know if it was a promoter or whatever, the person was like, oh no, like, I'm not doing it. But then he recanted and was like, you know what? I might as well. This will be my last time doing it, blah, blah, blah. Let me do it. That last, quote unquote, last time he did it is what made him honestly into the Tyler Perry that individuals may know now. If you're not familiar with him, he's the highest paid Black movie director. He has his own movie studio. I think that's what it's called, movie studio. I don't know. It's just a huge estate or a huge, property in which they, like a production studio, that's the name of it. He has a production studio. He has so many shows, makes a lot of money. You can search up his net worth. He's a very successful individual. He's the first to do a lot of things as far as, doing things being a Black man. And I say that to say now he has multiple TV shows on different networks right now. He consistently is coming out with new movies, consistently getting, high box office films, stuff like that. And one thing they kept saying in the movie, people who worked with him and people who currently now, well, back then as well, but really focusing on now, one thing they often say is like his worth ethic is something different. The fact that he's able to put out so many movies and so many TV shows and think of so many scripts and direct so many things, they're all like, it's crazy. Like, he's so creative. He's so this, he's so that. And I'm not trying to take that away from him because he is that. He worked for that. But I often think about those 7 years. Those 7 years of him doing new productions. Those 7 years of him trying new things. Those 7 years of him building up kind of who he is now is what allows him to make, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he might be a billionaire. If he's not a billionaire, he's up in that range. And I say that to say, like, he has all these TV shows and these movies and all these things going on. So for someone who hasn't worked for that long, for someone who hasn't put in that much work, it's kind of hard to be like, how does he do it? Like, how does he keep thinking of these things? How did he think? Because he was doing it for 7 years. And that's just how long he had to play. So I can't even imagine how long he was doing it. But for 7 years straight, if he would have had an expectation upon his plays, you have to get a certain amount of attendees after this year. You have to get a certain amount of, make a certain amount of money after this year. I highly doubt he would have given himself 7 years. He probably would have given himself 1, 2, maybe 3 years and then quit. But the fact that he did it for 7 years allowed him to build up those reps, allowed him to build up those building blocks. So now when it comes to doing it on a big stage, he can do it. His first ever movie, everyone doubted him. Especially being a Black director, everyone doubted him. They're like, you know what? Like, you're not going to get that many people for your first movie, but they ended up picking it up. They ended up, showing it, whatever. It shocked everyone. And every movie subsequently he's came out with since then has really shocked. Well, after a while, people got used to it. But in the beginning of his career in the early 2000s, when he was coming out with these movies, people were like, in Hollywood, they were like, no one's gonna see this. Like, no one's gonna come out and see this. Nobody cares about this stuff. He shocked everyone. And he was having #1 movies. Mind you, when he first was coming out, people were like, who is he? Because to have a #1 movie in Hollywood is kind of like, okay, these are directors we know. Like, oh, so-and-so made this movie. Okay, that's a good movie. So-and-so made this movie. When he came out, his first #1 movie, other directors, people in Hollywood were like, who is Tyler Perry? Who is this man? Like, how is it possible that he came out with a #1 movie and nobody knows who he is? Because he was getting in those reps when nobody was watching. And I say that to say that, story just made me think about myself and the things that I want to do in my life. And sometimes I realize I do put limitations on myself because I tell myself that I need to get something out of something. If you're doing this, you need to be making this amount of money. If you're doing this, you need to be this amount of good. And I feel like it also comes with the hustle culture that we have nowadays. But now I kind of just ask myself, like, what else would you be doing? It's so easy for us to say we're not doing something because something isn't working out for us, or we're not going to do something because we're not good at it. But at the same time, what are you going to be doing during that time period anyway? Watching TV, sitting on your phone, not doing any brainstorming. We love to say that. I'm brainstorming. I'm researching. When does research become pointless? Like, you just know all this information. You know how to build up 30,000 business. Nobody cares that you know how to build up 30,000 businesses if you don't start one. Nobody cares that you have a great product if they never use it. Nobody cares that you know the best way to do RDLs in the gym and you know the perfect way to do bench presses if you never do them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we have to stop having these limitations on ourselves that we have to become perfect when we do things. And then also another thing is too, we have to stop having these expectations on society to care. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Nobody cares about our sad stories. Nobody cares that how long it took us to do something. Nobody cares that we know how to do something if we're not producing. And I think that's one of the hardest things that people have to realize, because even myself, I realized in my life, I've made myself a victim because I felt like I went through certain things in my life and certain things happened and I deserve this. And I worked for this and nobody cares. And I feel like we have this expectation on society to care about us so much, but we have to realize, first and foremost, people are going through things themselves. And second of all, people's lives have to go on with or without you. I recently saw this post, actually not recently, I saw this post a while ago, and it was basically trying to tell people to, trying to convince people to get into being a business owner. This is why you should be a business owner, and that's why you should be a business owner, whatever. And one of the things they were saying, they were like, because a week after you die, your employer is going to have a publication, basically, like, you know, like an Indeed post or something out for your position. They don't really care about you. And I'm just sitting here like, the entitlement that we have. We feel so entitled that we feel like we're such an important individual that our job should just leave that place vacant, or they should wait a month, or they should wait at least 2 months. I mean, hey, I was an important part of the team. Yeah, and things still have to continue. Like, I know it's sad and it's unfortunate, and people may feel like, well, dang, my job didn't care about me, but they still have to make money. They still have to keep going. You think after you pass away, your close friends and family have to stop, you know, booking doctor's appointments? People's lives have to continue going on. They can't say, oh, you know, I have to miss 2 weeks off of work because something happened to my mom. Don't get me wrong, you know, jobs do allow a little bit of time, but at the same time, like, their lives still have to go on. They can't take a year off of work, or they can't skip doctor's appointments and all this other stuff for long periods of time to grieve you. And you shouldn't want them to, because that's like saying when something happens to somebody that's close to you, you're supposed to take long periods of time out of your life to make sure that individual is grieved properly, remembered properly. And I feel like it's kind of messed up. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it's kind of messed up for us to have this expectation upon the world to give us something. The world owes us something. If everybody with a sad story was owed a great life, we all would have AMG Benzes for our first cars when we turn 16. But that's just not the life that we live. And I'm not saying that to say, you know, you should forget the things that you went through, forget your past and get rid of. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, I feel like we put expectations on ourselves and limitations on ourselves as far as how the world should treat us, and as far as what we should expect from the world. And I feel like we expect so much. We want to take from this world, but it's like, you have to give to this world. And I'm not saying that to be cliche, like, oh, you have to be a giver, or you have to to each his own if that's what you want to do with your life. But at the same time, you have to become a valuable individual, so you have to give something to this world of value. Whether it's you starting a business, whether it's you being a teacher, whether it's you, whatever the case may be, give something to this world of value. But when you give, do not place expectations upon it. Don't expect something back from it, because that's when you're hurt. That's when you feel let down. You don't feel let down if you give somebody's like, I really need $5. Can I get $5? And you're like, all right, let me give you $5. If you really have in your mind, hey, my cousin asked for $5 every 2 weeks, she never paid me back. You're gonna give that person that $5 and not really expect it back. But you're giving it because you're like, you know what, she might need it, and I'm just gonna give it to her. Now, if your cousin give you back $20, mind you, you've been giving her $5 every so often, and you be like, dang, I have given her $20. It's going to feel like, well, dang, like, thanks. It's going to feel good. But then if your cousin gives you back $5,000, you're going to be like, whoa, thank you. Contrary, if your cousin say, I'm going to give you $5,000. I'm going to give you $5,000. I'm going to give you $5,000. You will keep expecting that money. That probably wasn't the best analogy, right? I thought about it on the fly. It sounded better in my head. Hopefully y'all understood what I'm trying to say. But I say that to say, if you do things out of your heart, you do things genuinely, and you get something back from it, it feels great. But when you have expectations upon that the world's supposed to give you something, or things are supposed to give you something, that's when you're let down. And I get it. There are certain things that are supposed to give you something back, right? If you go to college for 4 years and you get A's every single semester, okay, you're supposed to get a degree. You get what I'm saying? There's certain things that, you know, like, we do have expectations on, right? If you work a certain amount of hours a week and you sign a contract and make a certain amount of money, you should expect to get a certain amount of money. But I just feel like that's still an outside source. That's still tying it to something. That's tying it to an institution. That's tying it to a job. We need to stop doing that with ourselves. We do that with ourselves too. We treat ourselves like that. But our life is not structured like that. Our life is not structured if you go to the gym for 1 month straight, you're going to have a certain kind of body. That's not guaranteed the same way you sign a contract to make a certain amount of money. It's not guaranteed that if you start that business and you've been doing it for 6 months that you're going to even make a profit. That's not guaranteed. But when we have this guarantee expectation mindset on ourselves, we get let down a lot. And we quit on ourselves a lot. And we self-sabotage. And we convince ourselves why things aren't working for us. And why we're not the kind of people to do stuff like this. And then that ties into a whole nother, slew of things of why we don't improve our life. But I say that to say one thing I've just been having to focus more so on is not having expectations so much upon the world, essentially, and more so upon myself, and just doing things genuinely because I can. Reading not because I have to read, but because I literally have eyes. Going to the gym not because I have to go to the gym, but because, I have the capability of going to the gym. Like, I think about that a lot. Like, it's so easy for us to have these things and just have expectations like, oh, I'm supposed to be able to do this. And I'm supposed to be able to get up and walk. And I'm supposed to be able to read the signs on the street. But there's a lot of people that can't. And we don't think about those things if you can do them. But there's a lot of individuals that can't. And so now when I do a lot of things, I do things because I can do them. Because I have the opportunity to do them. Because I know I would be sitting here crying if I probably didn't. I have the opportunity to talk to you guys. I have the opportunity to, post content and all these other things. Like, there's little things that people can't do and they seem drastic. Like, oh, some people don't have hands, but it's like there are some people that literally can't move their fingers. Their motor skills aren't there. But we don't think about those things when we're driving our car. We don't think about those things when we're literally picking up a toothbrush and brushing our teeth. And so when it comes to things in life, I've been trying to just be more grateful for things that I have and just looking for things in that way of like, you know what, I have the opportunity to do this, so let me do it because I can. Now, I don't have expectations upon what I'm going to get from it, but if I know it's something positive, if I know it's something that's going to put me in a direction, and sometimes it doesn't even necessarily have to be better, but just different from what I'm doing. Sometimes it's not always better, but it's different. At least it's, making sure it's not nothing bad, but it's just different. It doesn't have to be better, but at the same time, it's just not the same. I'm not complacent in my life. I'm not stagnant in my life. So it could be better, or it could be something that I don't really want to do and I try something else. But at the same time, I feel like the less expectations you have on something, the less you self-sabotage and the less you get in your head about it, and you just do things genuinely because you want to do them and you can do them. You have the ability to do them, and not because it's a chore and not because you have to, but simply because you can. So I don't know. I've just been thinking about that lately when it comes to doing certain things in life, and just my expectations upon what I have for my life or what I have in life is like, I have to lower them. And it doesn't mean you can't have standards, but I don't know. I just feel like we have to lower our expectations a little bit more so we can be like a kid. When kids are doing things and, kids start sports at, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They start sports at all these years and they don't care that they're not going to the Olympics. They don't care that they're not going to the NBA or NFL. They do it because they can. And I feel like as we get older, we lose that bliss, right? As being a child. Because it's like now we have so much expectations upon things. But it's like I try to rewire my mindset around things, like being that child again. When we were children, there's so many things we did, not for expectations, not because we wanted something out of it, simply because we could do it. And that's why a lot of people stayed in sports for so long or played instruments for so long. And I feel like the thing that made a lot of people stop is because you got to a certain age and then people told you couldn't do this or you can't do that or you're not going to get a scholarship or you're not going to this. And then it's like, well, if I'm not getting anything from it, maybe I should stop. And then we just keep that cycle going as we get older, and it leads to multiple things of us not getting to our potential. And so I'm trying to, change my framework and my mindset around that. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell me below any limiting beliefs you feel like you have yourself. Or not even limiting belief necessarily. What are some of the things that you quit on that you currently have been thinking about starting again lately or doing again lately, and you just want to stop having expectations upon that thing?